It's time for another This Is a Terrible Way to Level with 10. Because, like always, I don't focus on efficiency when leveling. I focus on fun. So what's the most fun way to level an Inquisitor? Obviously, it's a cross between an auto-bomber and a bossing one-shot build. Because who doesn't want to just blow the story bosses away, while also running around passively without really having to worry about attacking or killing enemies? At low levels, I decided to use the Poet's Pen setup, which I already had from my previous character. It doesn't really matter how you level from, let's just say 1 to 12, I just threw on some spells and got to it. If you want to see exactly how I did it, then be sure to check out my stream, which will be linked in the card. I do roughly the first half of the leveling on stream and finished the rest off stream. Once I got to level 12, I put on both Poet's Pens and started shooting the spells from my wand as opposed to casting them myself, since after all, who wants to actually cast things for yourself? From there, I needed to get to about level 30 before I could achieve my ultimate form, which was to use dual Bitter Dreams. That's right, the item which people said would be Alch Shards, and is in fact still worth multiple chaos at this point in the league, is the item that I wanted to use to level my Inquisitor. I figured that Bitter Dream gives enough raw damage that it would be absolutely incredible for just nuking bosses with an Unleash one-shot setup. I decided to pick Creeping Frost since Creeping Frost can be used to overlap and happens to be cold damage, which is very important for the other half of my evil leveling plan, which was to use Vortex and basically be an auto-bomber. I could just put Vortex on left click, and I don't have to worry about running up to a pack, using a skill, and then running to the next pack. I could just keep on running, and hopefully they'd die in between. If I thought that I could somehow fit Righteous Fire into a Bitter Dream and make it work, I probably would have done that. That's definitely not a good idea though. And I of course also used a pair of Praxis Rings, since the mana costs were going to get a little bit problematic otherwise. At one point I put Life Tap on my Creeping Frost, and it was about 130 life, which isn't exactly a nice amount to spend. It should be noted that in this case, I spared no expense, but you really don't need expensive items to level with this setup. If you have even just any old helmet, your dual Bitter Dreams, and whatever other junk off the floor you happen to find, I'm sure it will be good enough. Instead, I got 7 League Steps, and even threw in a Divergent Creeping Frost at a cost of 2 Divines, just because I wanted to see how far I could push the boss one-shot shenanigans. Well, I probably should have also grabbed a +1 Amulet, and without it I couldn't quite one-shot a lot of the later bosses. I did, however, completely delete them within a couple of casts, and I did legitimately one-shot several rares as I encountered them. Because I didn't have phasing, I sometimes also got stuck on enemies, and because my flasks weren't automated, I forgot to use them most of the time. All this said, I still had a complete blast while leveling. Since I was an Inquisitor and I knew I'd be able to transfer for recovery easily, I also put on Ghost Writhe. Ghost Writhe is a new chest that converts your life into Energy Shield, so I was pretty much just a low life build from about level 50 or so. And minus the time that I allocated Divine Shield because I thought it might be a good idea before realizing I had absolutely zero armor, I didn't have too much trouble. I don't really advise that you copy this build, but if you do happen to want to copy it, here's what I used and here's how I did it. For pathing, I was kind of just grabbing a bunch of random damage nodes. I grabbed a little bit of Dex since I needed it, and cast speed's never bad, a little bit of life, a little bit of AoE, and I kind of ended up weaving around towards other cold nodes. If you're wondering what's the method behind this madness, there really isn't one. I haven't even decided what I'm going to do with the character now that it's an endgame. I just knew the next build I was going to play was going to be an Inquisitor. And in terms of my gear, this is roughly what I was using. Of course, in one I had the Vortex, and in the other I had the Creeping Frost. Do you need alt qualities? No, absolutely not. Do they make a meaningful difference? Also, no, absolutely not. This entire thing was completely absurd, ridiculous, over the top, and way more money than it was actually worth. Or was it? Because I got a few hours of pretty good entertainment out of it, and I'm sure I'll be able to resell the Creeping Frost for about as much as I paid. So even if I did pay 2 Divines, I'd say 2 Divines is worth a couple hours of fun, and hey, the price could go up. I might even ultimately make a profit off of this terrible idea. And so now I'm curious, what are some of your terrible idea favorite leveling setups? Things that you find really fun, even if you know deep down they aren't that good. Be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and if you want to join in on the conversation for yourself, then hop into my Discord and make sure to give yourself the community role by reacting to the message in the rules section. If you want more content, be sure to get subscribed or click through the card right now where you can find my second channel. I post a lot of videos on a broad range of topics, including how prestige systems work, something that I'm very glad is absent from Path of Exile. And of course, a special thanks to all my patrons and channel members that helped make videos like this one possible. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make videos like this one a reality. And before I get going, one last question. What do you think my Inquisitor build is ultimately going to be? I know this isn't exactly a fair question to ask, because even I don't know the answer to it, but it'll be fun to see some of the guesses, and who knows? You might actually be right. So be sure to leave those guesses down in the comments below. And always remember, Path of Exile is a journey about learning. You'll learn something new every day, and you may be surprised just how far that knowledge will take you.